If you are looking for some children's literature that bends the categories of sci-fi and fantasy a little bit, then today's book just might be for you. Today I will be taking a look at The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we're taking a look at a children's book, children to middle age. I'm not entirely sure exactly the age group that it's intended for, but it is a book that was recommended to me by my good friend Trevor, who has several younger kids, and to my understanding, a movie is coming out of this book in the next couple days, actually. So he recommended that I take a look at it, and I must say that I really appreciated the recommendation. To give you a quick synopsis of the book, it takes place in an undetermined time and place exactly, supposedly on planet Earth, and somewhat in the future, although that's also not totally clear. The main character of the book is a robot whose name is Roz, it is short for Rosm, who is just waking up. At the very beginning of this book is becoming active and is looking around her surroundings and being quite confused. It takes a few chapters to explain exactly what the confusion comes from, but what you eventually find out is that Roz was on a transport ship, and that the transport ship had crashed and most of the other robots on it had just been destroyed, and that she herself was only accidentally activated by some sea otters, and she is still very confused as to exactly what is going on the world around her, but she appears to be very observant. She appears to have some kind of artificial intelligence and some kind of emotional depth. We're not entirely sure. Sometimes they say that she doesn't have a whole lot of feelings, but clearly throughout the book she also does express a good deal of feeling, so that part's actually a little inconsistent in my opinion. And we see her trying to engage with the other animals on this island that she's on, and the animals are woodland creatures, and she even learns to speak their languages. I'd say that's probably a little bit of the fantasy element versus the sci-fi element, which is, of course, she's a robot that has some kind of artificial intelligence. However, she also seems to have kind of a classic clunky feel to her when you think of robots. There's not, again, that's where there isn't a real clarity as to when exactly this takes place. And like I said, it is on an island, but the creatures are all woodland creatures, so the location is also a little unclear as well. You do know that some of the creatures, such as a goose, is going to make his way southward for the winter, so it appears to be at least, you know, a little farther north. I don't know how far north. I don't actually know how far south geese have to fly for the winter. But anyway, the whole point of this novel is that Roz is trying to interact with the world around her. It kind of has a Wall-E feel. At first, she is just trying to talk to the animals, get to know them. They call her a monster. They don't like her at first. And then really the whole novel is her slowly changing their minds. And the big thing that changes at first is she's actually going to discover a little egg that is about to hatch of a goose. All the other goose have been killed in an accident, and so she is going to help hatch this egg and help raise this gosling, and to do so she needs lots of help. So she is going to, of course, go around and ask all of the other woodland creatures for help, even though many of them consider her a monster, and they will eventually oblige. And also Roz, over time, is going to make friends just by being willing to help all the other animals in whatever way that she can. And that is the premise of the book. I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that the large majority of the book is, of course, her relationship with the other animals, including most notably this little goose, this gosling that she is going to hatch and then help raise. And then as we get close to the end, a little bit more about the larger world that they live in. And of course, her origins come into play. And that is actually where you will get a moment of conflict. But again, I don't want to give away too much because I think it's a really fun read, and I just would encourage people to read it. So I will let you find out what exactly happens near the end of the book. I really enjoyed this book. It is I don't want to just call it cute. I think that has a tendency to belittle it a little, even though there are elements of it that are cute. You have a robot that is learning and exploring. You have woodland creatures that can speak and have some kind of personality. All of that is cute. But I also think that there's a real warm-heartedness to it. The fact that it's a robot, but this robot is clearly interested in helping those around her and the way she engages with them. And there is clearly elements of emotions and feelings involved in this that all play a part in not just her development, but the development of the others on the island. And I think that, again, calling that cute is just kind of belittling the importance of the emotions that are developing. And so I thought it was not just cute, but it was really heartwarming. Like I said, age-wise, I think this this is more or less going to be gauged towards slightly younger. I think anyone probably around the age of maybe 7 or 8 could certainly understand this book. And like I said, I enjoyed it, so I think that it would have an appeal clear through middle schoolers, and even probably most high schoolers would still be engaged with this. And then, clearly I liked it. So I am very much looking forward to the sequel. I know that there are 3 books currently in this series. I have to wait to get to the second book. My library has quite the wait list, but I am looking forward to it. And I will say it is obvious at the end of this book that there's going to be a second book. I don't want to say necessarily a cliffhanger, but there's definitely, the way it ends makes it clear that you will need to go on to the next book. I haven't read the next book, but I suspect that, all 3 of these books work together. But I'll find out more when I eventually get to that book. Who would I say this is for? Well, for starters, it's a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of fantasy. The fact that the main character is a robot is what makes it sci-fi. But again, the robot does not actually engage all that much with the rest of the wider world. And so in some ways, it's more of a survivalist book. And the fantasy element, I would say, is the anthropomorphizing of the animals. And that's about it. I wouldn't say you have too much of any other element in there, but, I would still solidly put this in the category of sci-fi/fantasy. Even though that's not going to be a dramatic part of this. You don't need to know a whole lot of world building. You don't need to know different magic systems or anything like that. But I think just to give us the main character required at least a little bit of advancement in technology. And of course, to have the other main characters to be animals requires a little bit of toying with the reality of the world. So that's why I would say it's a little bit of that. But don't come into this thinking, oh, I'm going to build a huge world, at least not based off this book. Again, I don't know what the subsequent books look like. Maybe there's more of it in those. It's not a very long book. I would recommend it for anyone that wants a quick read. So if you're looking at maybe not your earliest chapter books, but a little more advanced chapter books. So I think this would be a great book for someone to explore, trying to just get a little more advanced in the books that they're reading. Who wouldn't I say this is for? Well, if you're not interested in at least some elements of fantasy or sci-fi, or you're not interested in the fact that at the heart of this book is a question of relationships and how a robot not only can feel, but about how that robot can build relationships. Even though I don't think the heart of this book is trying to get you to question, oh, what is real? I certainly think in a modern world, we do find ourselves questioning how much life and how much emotion should be invested in inanimate objects or things that are created. And I do think that this is part of that larger discussion. But again, it's geared towards kids, so I wouldn't by any stretch of the imagination say that it's a significant part of this book. And I don't think you're going to come away from it thinking, man, what is real? What is living? I don't think it's quite intended to do that, but I do think that it is definitely part of that larger conversation. And if you don't want to engage with that, then this book may not be for you. It is geared to a younger audience, so if you're out of the habit of reading books for a younger audience, or you just don't engage with kids that this might appeal to, then this probably isn't going to be for you. But I do think it's well enough written that you can still enjoy it. And like I said, because it's a quick read, I would recommend it for pretty much anyone that thinks that this premise sounds interesting to them. I am personally interested to see how the movie does. I enjoyed WALL-E personally. I thought it was a very good movie. I know that it's a bit controversial. Not everyone likes WALL-E, and I definitely get some real WALL-E vibes in this book. And I suspect that the movie will have similar sentiments, but I'll just have to watch it and see. But please let me know what you think about this book. If you enjoyed it, if you had some kind of qualms with it, or if you thought there's something really important that I missed out either in the synopsis or in my overall assessment, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.